5 connected. Cool. What's up, everybody? If you're in chat, just give me a quick hello and make sure we're all connected, please. See, 4 out of 5 of our connections are good. I see a smiley face. Hershey Kiss, what's up? What's up, Mark? Just waiting a few more minutes. We got about 5 minutes before the 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock hour. 7 o'clock, depending on where you are. Let's see. Hey, Serge.
I get confused between those two. They must have changed this. That didn't happen last week. Weird. I swear they just changed that.
So is anyone working on some cool stuff tonight? Anyone not under an NDA? Those in the chat. Mark, I can't wait for you to finish up whatever project you're working on right now that is probably looking gorgeous.
Right?
Yeah.
I love that thing he did where he vectorized the motion with particles on it.
Yeah.
So cool. Run it through Nuke to vectorize it and then bring it in.
One thing I wish Restream said, like, I like that it says connected and who I'm connected to, but like just total counts of people too. It's like the one missing feature it needs.
Total counts of who's there?
Yeah, like it just tells me what channels I'm connected to, but it doesn't tell me how many people are connected.
It says how many are connected on mine, but it doesn't say like the overall numbers.
Yeah.
It's like, unless it's in the old log, I didn't really think about that. I wonder if the monitor says. If I look up last week.
All right, we got about 3 minutes. So those waiting around, probably just gonna do a quick run through of the graph editor again and everything that I went over in the tutorial this week and any questions you have. So just nice and easy and loose, and we'll just kind of have some fun. Maybe talk about Rick and Morty a bit. My parts are finished. I think it's out for review with the render peeps. Sweet, dude. That's awesome. You know what? I don't think this is the Redshift layout I want. There we go.
Periscope sucks.
Periscope does suck. It's like...
The video quality is just garbage.
Yeah.
And like, even the input connection on here, like, to warn it, you're like a billion kilobytes over the, or whatever, over the encode rate.
Nah.
And that's something really low as its default encode rate.
4, 2. That's not what I want. There we go. Getting my desktop set up for rendering. Cool. And I think I'm just going to switch into Cinema.
I don't see anybody in this chat
I've got 4 people so far. I've got 1 on Periscope and 3 on YouTube. Hey, anyone that's on YouTube, can you tell me which YouTube channel you're watching? If you're watching mine or if you're watching Brograph, please.
There we go.
Figure it out. Yeah, Rick. Redshift Rick! Get this going. Brograph. Cool. Thanks, Mark. So, really, we can talk about whatever. Brograph Surge. Cool. This is just a model off Turbo Squid, and been having fun talking about just Rick and Morty this week, and looking up models and Pickle Rick and Regular Rick, and you can find this on Turbo Squid. It was like $25, $30, and it comes with like 5 rigs, like a walk cycle or 3 walk cycles and 2 other ones, like a fighting one and something else. So if you're looking for anything Rick and Morty, especially a Rick, Turbo Squid's where it's at. And really, this is nothing fancy. This is just a Redshift material, and then inside the shader graph, it's UV mapped all around, so I've got a texture piped into that. But I thought it might be fun to just kind of play around with him and go over the shader graph a bit. Especially if you have any questions tonight, throw them in the chat, and I'll answer them as I'm going along, make it a little bit more interactive, and start messing with them with some random stuff. So if you are joining us for the first time and you haven't watched the previous either stream on just getting it started in materials, or if you haven't watched the tutorials on getting started in materials, I recommend going back and reviewing that after this, just so you can get a better understanding of everything that goes into a Redshift shader. I cover the 3 main ones of just material, and then subsurface scattering, and then car paint. But we're just going to stick with a general Redshift material tonight, and I don't have anything special set up. I just have a dome light going, and probably, I have a HDRI tagged into it. So why don't we just clear this out and start with regular old material, and I'll go ahead and kill those. Just group this, and we'll call it Rick, make life easier, and throw that on there. Oh, why is the shirt not going? Because the shirt, I deleted the shirt's UV, not the material, because that's out of order. All right, try this again. Delete these guys out. Just don't need it. Group it. And Rick. All right, so we've got that, and I'm going to rename this Redshift material base. I'll throw that on Rick. You'll see he's gray and plastic, and I've kind of been digging like purple pinks lately, pink reds lately, so you know what, I'm going to do like a yellow orange, and then I'll do like a pink background afterwards. So like that. Getting swifty. What's up, Matt? So we've got yellow Rick here, and it's looking pretty plain. Could be looking better. Plastic toys would probably have some fingerprints and some grunge onto it. So the way we can do that is inside of the graph editor. And that's because Redshift doesn't give you any ports or layer systems built into the base. If you go through these, you'll see that you can't really add anything in. It's all graph base. And it may look overwhelming at first, especially looking at that it's based off Espresso and not something fancy like Octane or Cycles, because they have prettier interfaces, but it still works the same if you're coming from that. So if we want a texture, I'm just going to leave this as our base texture and call this base plastic. We can start to add some scratches and dirt and everything like that. So we're going to grab a texture from over here, and we can call this grunge. And the cool thing about Redshift, and I think they implemented it into Octane quite a few versions ago, but like right out of the bat, is you can just start naming things and color coding things, so it's really easy to organize. So this we'll call grunge, and I'm going to make it like a reddish pink kind of. And under general, we get all these options. So just like you would see anywhere else in Cinema 4D, you get a path and you go and you can find a grunge map or any kind of texture you want to use. And I'm going to use glossiness. What's up, Jake? Thanks for joining on Periscope. And open this up. And there's a few ways you can go about doing this. So there's one method of doing a bunch of different materials and then layering them together, and I can show you that way. And there's also using a material and then building grunges up into that. So depending on how much detail you want to get, you can go two different ways. So what are you doing? Wacom tablet, catch up. There we go. I'm going to show you the second way first, starting with just one material and building up in there, and then going into a more in-depth material afterwards. So for this plastic, we've got this diffuse layer, we've got reflection, and this reflection should probably be a little bit yellow coming into that. So as it reflects in here in the specular highlights, it's got a little bit more of a yellow. And I'm going to go ahead and drag this connection to this blue, and that's how we start to get this drop down here. You can see it all relates right in here. So we've got color, weight, roughness, and then diffuse, color, weight, and roughness. For these types of maps, you want to pipe them into roughness. So I want to do it on the reflection and reflection roughness. And it might take a second to cache in the background. Just give it a second to load this texture into the scene, let it do its thing and catch up. Especially since I'm streaming, it likes to kind of reorganize itself a little bit. Doot. Almost there. I know it. There we go. All right, so we've got that in there. If we look really closely, we can start to see a little bit of grunge happening. We've got these scratches in there. If I rotate around, got a little bit of scratches over here. And that's all well and good, but you could probably get some more detail out of it. So by using a ramp, you can throw this in front of your texture and put it into input, and then throw this in here and start making adjustments. Now, as soon as you hook up a ramp, it's going to mess everything up, and that's because it's trying to use the UV map information and not this grunge map. So you need to change your source to Alt, and then you can start having some fun. So as we pull this down here, you'll start to see some more textures coming into here. So the specular hits in here getting a little bit more grungy. Push it up even more. And let's try inverting it too, see if that helps. I don't know why the invert puts it all the way down there. It's kind of a silly mishap, I think, in the coding. So there we go. We start getting some really nice grunge patterns into this. So we look around. So this is working well because everything's got a UV on it. But if it didn't, you can use the triplanar, which pretty much tells Redshift, hey, start putting seams together and overlapping textures and making it so it's all smooth, because if there wasn't a UV map, a lot of these textures might get junky and overlap in weird places, and you get what's called seams. So I'm going to go ahead and put this in image X and then pipe it into here. And automatically it says use the same image on each axis. But if you had multiple textures, you could uncheck that and start using individual textures for each one, and it would start to blend everything together. But since we're using the same one throughout, we're just going to leave it like that. And so it would just keep doing what it's doing, but wrap it around nicely. So you can see in here we got a little bit specular highlights still and on his chest, but we don't really need that right now since he's already UV wrapped. So we'll just put that back. I'm not really digging this color as much as I thought I would, so maybe something a little bit like dark blue will help with these highlights. So there we go. So you can see in here we get these really nice scuff marks. So let's say you want to bring these out a little bit more. Let's go ahead and bring in another texture, and we're going to put it into a bump map. And for that, you're going to take your texture and plug it into a bump map node before you do anything with it. And this one I'm going to go ahead and rename bump. And we can make the bump green. There we go. And we'll pump it into here. Input, and before I go any further, change this out. So I'm going to use this normal map here, and it will automatically convert it. And we'll grab this, go to our little blue icon, bring it down to overall, and bump input. And as soon as it caches again, you'll start to see some bumps added in. And we can do the same thing. We can start using a ramp if we want, or there's controls inside the bump map. I guess I should say I'm using Redshift 2.5.34, and I know they're up to 3.6 now, so I'm a couple days behind. They've been doing like daily updates. So if you're watching and you're saying, yeah, this caching thing got fixed, that's probably because I just need to update, and I've been waiting to get the green light that it's stable and not going to crash. So here we go. We got some really nice grunge pipes in, and Rick is looking all messed up. And this is all just through one layer. And let's say we're thinking it's a little bit over the top. We can bring our height down so the depth isn't so great. And maybe something like 0.125. So now these scratches are really light. What's up, EJ? iDesign. Glad you're joining, dude. All right, so we can start to fade this back a little bit in our max too, so that way more of the blacks and whites have a little less contrast. They become a little bit more gray, but if you start to increase it too, then you can see more detail comes out. So it's kind of like the height scale, except you're telling Redshift to go, all right, anywhere that's gray, try and push it more white, or try and push it more black. Looking good playing an Octane right now. Yeah, man, that's cool. I mean, there's still a lot of cool stuff in Octane, especially like that scatter stuff that David did for your tutorials. I mean, that's awesome. Like, I wish Redshift had that. That, like, you just can't beat that. So everything has its place. I still am updating Octane, and if I need it for a job, I'm going to use it for a job. But so far, I really love the speed of Redshift. As soon as the new AOV system comes out, which it sounds like it might be out next week or the week after, because it just showed a preview of the new nodes for AOVs. I think that's going to be awesome too. So that's my goal for Redshift next, is hopefully cover some AOVs for you guys, because I know you keep asking. But yeah, I hear you, EJ. A lot of cool Octane stuff and render tokens now and all that jazz. But just, I don't know. Just production wise, I like being able to go to Pixel Plow and throw it up there. I know you can go to other farms and use Octane too and Orcs out, but doesn't seem quite as cost effective yet. Anyway, I'm going off on a whole tangent about Octane. So we've got this all set, and just like before, if we wanted to throw a ramp in here in the bump, it would do the same thing. And that's pretty much that. I don't even know enough about any of them yet, but Octane is just my first step because so many Broctanes come out there. Yeah, I hear you, man. It's like getting into Octane 2 years ago with Redshift. Is like there's some material out there, but there's not a lot. And so now that Redshift is out in the wild, it's just kind of playing catch up to where Octane has all these resources available now. But I mean, I've heard you on all the podcasts. I know you've been chomping at the bit to get an eGPU without blowing up your house and having it catch on fire. So, you know, baby steps. Use whatever you feel comfortable with, dude. So I guess we can probably do some more advanced stuff. So let's say this is our base plastic, and we want to have another plastic on top, or maybe some metal infused with it. What we can do is copy this, and if you double tap these, it folds them up. So I folded these ones up, and I'm going to go in here and rename this. Why don't we say like aluminum, and we'll just do a base aluminum. And you can start blending some of these things together. So I'm going to use what's called a material blender, bring this in here, and our base plastic will actually go into this as Rick turns bright red. And we'll put that into our surface. No fires yet, good. Alright, so Rick's back to normal. Legend of the burning eGPU. Oh man, dude, you know what? That would be such a cute little model for you to do, EJ, is like an eGPU catching on fire. I would love to see you do something with that if you've got time. That'd be a cute little tune shader, or even Octane tutorial if you want to. Yeah.
1080 Ti eyeballs.
Yeah. Oh man, a 1080T with eyeballs. Yeah. So now I'm getting distracted with that. So we've got aluminum, and we're gonna pipe it into this blender here. And what we're gonna do is put it right here. Whoop. See, this is why this node graph kind of gets tricky, is that the marks are so small that sometimes you miss them. So we're going to put it in layer 1 color. What's up, Billy? And we'll see if this updates. Not yet. Cool. All right. So that's because this is set to black, which is good. I don't want too much of it yet. So I want to show you by using this same bump map here, but I'm going to just call it, what do I want to call it? I guess blend instead of bump. And actually I can't keep it as a normal, but we'll just change it to roughness. I'm going to pipe it into layer color 1's blend. Go like this, layer 1, blend color. And we should see some magic happen where, yeah, it's gotta cache again. Where the blend starts to be pulled together from this texture and overlaid into this. Almost caught up. There we go. Cool. So now you can start to see some of this aluminum coming through, being caused from this blend texture right here. So if I rotate around, we get all these splotches based on that texture. Because I'm using it from the same texture pack, which, by the way, little shout out to the French Monkey. He's got all these awesome texture packs that I'm using. So because it's from the same folder, they're going to line up in the same spots. So everywhere that we've got these little bump hits, this is going to line up too. So now there's aluminum coming through. And so that's how you can go from having some advanced texturing in just one material into throwing it into a few different ones. So now we've got this aluminum one over top and mixed in with it, and we've got the plastic underneath, and you can keep going. So if you want to do a third one, so let's say like this could be copper. Throw that down here into layer 2. And maybe this one will just use a different texture altogether from a different pack. So this is pack 14. We'll go into, let's go into 13 since isn't tomorrow the 13th? Yep, Friday the 13th tomorrow. So we'll do that. Call this, we'll bring the dirt one, unfold this, and just like we did with the last one, under blend color, do blend color 2, and it's going to do its cache thing. So Billy, what are you working on, dude? I saw you just posted a new like course tutorial or something. Man, is that from your college teaching? I got a little notification about it like an hour ago maybe, or 2 hours ago. Doot, come on, copper. There we go. So that's looking a little bit harsh. So we're starting to lose some of our cool base plastic in there. It's still there, but the copper is really starting to saturate everything. So what we can do is just grab a ramp, and I'm going to copy it down here, bring that color into the ramp, right there and right there. Cool, man. Yeah, I like what you're doing with those, Billy, because like I can kind of UV unwrap, but you know those are nice little refreshers. You can explain it in a good way, so I can definitely understand it a bit more. So now if we look around, we've got aluminum in there, we've got a little bit of copper highlights that come out too. Maybe I killed this a little too much. Kind of bring that back out. So now we've got copper in his cheeks here. I think I'm going to take this dome light and rotate the coordinates around a bit. So we'll say 90 degrees, see if we can get some more in his face, and pump up the exposure to maybe 2. So there we go. So now we can really start to see we've got copper down here, in like the belly area and these scratches. We've got the blue plastic, and then over here we've got like T1000 melting hand reforming over here from Terminator 2. And then if you really want to get swifty with it, you can do a displacement map. So this is going to be a test. I don't know if it's going to apply to all of it. If I throw a Redshift tag onto a null, I'm going to guess that it will. If it doesn't work, we'll just have to do it on all of the geometry. But to get displacement working, you have to throw this Redshift. Man, I'm losing my words. Redshift tag onto that. And then under geometry, displacement, enable, we can go in and we can get a displacement texture now. So for that, I'm going to go ahead and get a displacement node, bring that into here. Just like everything else, we're going to put a texture into it. So for this, we'll call this displacement and give it something purple like that. Looking good. Let's go find displacement. So how about we get some scratches? We'll do 5, and we'll just take this normal here, load that up, put it in here, put it in the texture map, and then we go to output, and under output we've got displacement. Throw that in there. Once it caches and bakes a little bit, you'll see it gets a little bit swollen and just a little too over the top. So I'm going to bring this scale down quite a bit to say, you know what, I'm going to do inverted so we get some scratches going in. Mark, I got these textures from the French Monkey. Let me see. I'll bring him up. TFM, it's tfmstyle.com, and I'll bring my Chrome window over here. Oh, don't crash. There we go. So he does a bunch of cool dailies that he gives away for free too. So if you see, it's kind of like Beeple that way. He gives away all of his files from his dailies. And so if you go through his site and you like something, you can get that. He's got really great compositing for Octane and Skin. So anyone who's big into Octane, so EJ who's watching, I guarantee you probably know who the French Monkey is. Hey, what's up, Benjamin? Yeah, French Monkey is awesome. But this is his site. He's got a ton of great work. His Instagram's awesome. But he's got these cool packs. So under products, he's got some freebies, but bundles is where you can get like the best deal. So he's got grayscale maps, which is like what I'm using, but I'm using these grayscale kits. But grayscale maps are like greebles and stuff, but are all normal and bump maps. And then he's got like these landscape bump maps too. And then here's smudge, scratches, and grunge. And let's see. We'll go into, what was it, grayscale maps. I have the tech kit, and maybe I'll pull that up. I think I know where that is. I've been trying to do better at organizing my assets, so I think I know where that is. But if you look here, here's like a bunch of circuitry. Here's another grunge pack. Here's a brush pack. Like retina for an eye right in here. And then tech it right in here. Yeah, that's cool, Benjamin. I like, or Ben, whatever you prefer. I have Octane. Like it's installed. I mean, that's really what my first third-party render engine was. So I get it. I had Cycles installed for a while. I haven't used it in so long that I uninstalled it. And then Arnold I have as well in here. And I started so background story is I started with Octane. I thought it was awesome. I ran into production issues like everyone tends to run into. So I started learning Arnold so I could send stuff out to the farm. And then I started learning about Redshift, which is kind of closer to the way Arnold works. And so I started going in that direction. And now Redshift is at PixelPlow for sending stuff out too. So if I ever get in a bind, it's not a big deal like it is with Octane, where you have to pretty much choose orc where you're quote unquote breaking your license. But you know, it doesn't seem to really affect people that much. So that's kind of my whole background in all this. And once you start to really understand one, even like Octane, there's only just like some subtle differences. So in Octane, a curvature map is closer to the dirt map. Things like that. It's just like little jargon things, but mostly it's all the same. So if you're used to working in the Octane Nodegraph, then you'd probably be pretty comfortable working here too. It's just making sure you know what words go where. So yeah, I would show you that I might even be able to do no, because I've tried to do it before. I've tried to switch from Redshift into Octane before, and it usually causes Octane to just not render. But I was going to show you that it's really easy to do the same thing and just think about it the same way. Well, thanks, Ben. I appreciate that. Yeah, I hope I kind of feel that way too, that like Redshift is kind of this mysterious thing, especially like that the really long alpha that I was in, like people were like, oh, what is this thing? And it's really cool. And what's really cool too is if you're a Cinema 4D user and you're starting to get into Houdini or Maya or whatever, say you need to work in those applications as well, is that a Redshift license is universal between all of it. So if I were to close this out right now and open up Houdini, I can start rendering in Houdini right now, and it's the exact same setup. It's all nodes too. Of course, Houdini is all nodes, but even just speaking material wise, it's all the same. So like if you can build a material here and you need to jump into Houdini, you can build the same material in there. Now that might be fun to do at some point, just show the connection between the two. But yeah, and I think too they're going to start rolling out being able to implement open shader language too, so that will be fun if you can start saving these out into like more open shader language, and then you can hop into multiple programs too without having to worry about licenses. You just work in one, jump into another one, and open up the shader, and it's the exact same. So a lot of cool little updates coming. But yeah, if you have any questions, Ben, that you think feels mysterious about Redshift, throw them at me, dude, and I'll start to try and break them down. So yeah, I mean this is pretty much as complex as you want to make it. You can go all the way up to 6, so 6 materials combined here, but then you can stack those. So if you have a material blender with 6 full ones, you can bring out another material blender and do another 6 if you want. You can do some really cool stuff with color layers too. So in here, if you have a bunch of textures you want to start to blend together, I think this one goes up to 7. So you can have 7 textures all working together into, say, scratches. If you want to have really dynamic procedural scratches, you can start doing that here. So just some really cool stuff that you can't. Whoop, there goes Rick. Can't quite get yet. Blenderception. Yeah, man, I guess you can open up Blender and have a Blenderception. Especially with OSL. So that's about it. Like that's all I really have to show you guys. It's only 9:30, and I teased it a while back on Instagram, and I guess I could do it here. I don't think I've shown it yet, but I don't think I've done it on a live stream, but maybe just screwing around with hair, how fun hair is, and hopefully I don't break Redshift, but that's kind of part of the fun of this. So let's go ahead and get a sphere. Bring this back. I'm going to turn off Redshift for a second, and let's just play with some hair and render some hair in Redshift. So it's really easy. If you've ever worked with hair in Cinema 4D, you just go into Simulate, Hair Objects, Add Hair. There you go. You got some hair. Now, using hair inside Redshift is pretty easy too. I don't know why it's not like this in every program, but you can go into Materials, grab a hair. And I'm going to go ahead and go into Shader Graph, and it's going to throw in this C4D hair attributes, so you can start really getting nitpicky with it. I like to just cancel that out, and it's going to be orange at first. If we throw that on the hair here, back up a little bit, and I hit play, you'll see we get orange hair just like that. If I hit pause and I hit play and let the dynamics take over, we'll just let that happen there. Hit play again. You've got hair. And one thing that's really cool about Redshift with hair is it's got these optimization areas. So like minimum trace depth and minimum pixel width. So you can say for like super fine hairs, don't go any thinner than this. And so that way it really holds on to that detail and doesn't get all pixelated and weird. So if you ever work with hair, you know that you can get random strands that just look like noise instead of actual hair. So Redshift has a really great way of combating that. And so that's pretty much all you have to do. And so I'm going to go ahead and disable that, and we can go into our shader right here. And if you want to, you know what, I remember I did this on one of the first streams, but it's just fun to review for anyone who hasn't seen. You can start changing stuff around. So there's interior reflection there, maybe get some really light pink highlights in there, and transmission, maybe some purples. And as you adjust the weights, your color will update too. So add some diffuse in there, bring it back, and primary reflection, we can have like a little bit of red pink. It's a primary reflection, see that getting there, and it's that fast. So I'm not going to go completely crazy with this, as I've talked about it before, but for anyone who's new to watching and wants to see some of the mysteries behind Redshift, as Ben was just saying, this is one of those cool things about Redshift that you can just make it start working and having some fun. So really fast. I can almost get it to keep up in real time. I think it's because I'm recording, and let's see if I do undersampling, how fast it keeps up. Yeah, I mean, it's super grainy, but as soon as I hit pause, it'll catch up. And you can see all the hair starting to fall down here and back down. So yeah, any questions out there in the chat? Let me see if I'm still connected to everywhere. So we've got, yeah, it seems like I'm connected to everybody. So let's see. I'm going to scroll back up. I think I've been keeping track of everything so far. Fans, comments, Legend of the Burning GPU from Mark. Getting swifty. Cool. So I think the only other thing that maybe I can show you, especially with advanced shaders, is, let me see if I can find an object that has some like cool curves to it. Merge object. I've already done Rick. I don't want to keep going back to the Iron Giant, but he's just got good curves to him. I have an OBJ. Oh, you know what I was working on the other day was a fire hydrant, and I can show you some advanced stuff with that. So I think personal hydrant, there we go. Bring this in. All right, so going back to the advanced shader, and showing you how deep you can get with this, you'll see that I've got four main layers with this right now. So I've got like a base metal, rough metal, paint, and then like a curvature map controlling a lot of it. And then I've got like a base right here, which is for these main areas. So if I throw it, let's see, where is the top? There's the top cap. So if I throw that there, actually these are all missing, so throw them there. Do the tip, just the tip, and then the middle. Makes it really easy just to have nice grungy textures throughout. And then let's see, where else am I missing? Side chains, I don't need that. Mostly the bolts are missing, and then the bottom. Where's the bottom? Sidechain bottom. There we go. You know what? Why don't I just do that as big cap so it's a little bit more dynamic. Nice strawberry, my dude. I guess it is kind of like a strawberry. It's kind of a strawberry red. How's it handle refraction and subsurface? That's a good question. I went over subsurface in a tutorial a week ago. But I can show you that too. And you know, the hydrant's pretty good for that. So why don't I pull that out here, that there. And if you don't know, you've got a bunch of cool standard stuff in here. And I think it was under objects, street. Yeah, street objects, fire hydrant. Cool. So there's a fire hydrant. And Redshift will render C4D materials pretty well too. I mean, it's gonna look like a C4D material, but it holds up pretty well. But we can go ahead and get rid of that. And so for subsurface, there's a few different ways to go about it. I'll start with like faking it. The poor man's subsurface scattering is what I like to call it. And you just create a Redshift material, and I'm gonna throw it here on fire hydrant. I think all these missing ones are gonna screw it up, maybe. Yep. So let me get rid of these. The bolts are still missing, but that's okay. So if I open this up and I go in here, dial back my diffuse, and crank up this setting here called backlighting translucency, you'll see it's kind of like a poor man's subsurface scattering. And what I can do here is add a color to it. Let me get a Redshift light. I'll do a point light. Bring this up here. And so, okay, I'll look for it. Yeah, you should look for it. And I go over this too, like the differences between using like backlighting translucency versus actual subsurface scattering. But this is like the fastest way to kind of fake it. And then I can crank up this. So if I do 100, so as I say in the tutorial, you kind of get like a cool gummy bear look going to it. If I turn off undersampling and turn on my bucket rendering, I get some cool little depths and glows in here, especially right on the edges. But for actual subsurface scattering, I gotta turn that down, turn on or that's multi-surface. I actually don't need to turn that up yet. So under here for subsurface, let me make sure I turn off my bucket rendering to keep up my speeds. You just add a little bit of scattering, so just like 0.5. And like that, that's subsurface, and it's going to be noisy right now just because I'm doing progressive rendering, but as soon as I hit buckets on, it cleans up really nice. There's a little bit of noise in here. I can clean that up. I probably only have like 10, 16, 64, so I bet if I do... Oh, no, that's not the one I want. That's a point light, so that's why we'll try 128 and the dome light. Yeah, it cleans it up a little bit. Probably, yeah, I'm at 16 here. How about 128? So there's that, and that cleans up really nicely. And so that, like, that's what, 2 seconds to render subsurface scattering. And then if I turn on global illumination, because I don't have those on, we'll say 64, and it's going to be 32. Now we're starting to really get some true subsurface in there. I'll bring this back down to say 500. And if you want to color it, you can make it colored. There we go. So the transmittance is going to be, as the light comes out, it's going to push out that light. And then if we go back to white and we do scattering, So the scattering coefficient will actually change how the light is tinted when it pushes through. So there's that like kind of gummy bear effect. But now it's truly subsurface instead of just like this super fast version here. And then if you want to get into multi-surface subscattering, so like skin, so if you go back and watch the tutorials there, it'll be under the main subsurface scattering tutorial. I go over that and multi-subsurface scattering. Crank up the diffuse. And I can get rid of this scatter here. Go into multi-subsurface and give it some. Turn this off so my progressive comes back on. Let's say we do like pink top and kind of a more red there, and then the bottom is going to be like a really dark red. I guess I could probably just open up the skin one to show you. That's probably going to be best. Turn my buckets back on. Maybe I'll just grab the skin one. Yeah, I'm going to grab skin to really show that. So materials and skin. Throw that on the hydrant. So now you've got skin and pretty fast. And the reason you're not seeing more of the light coming through is just because it's 3 layers of skin. So I really have to start to play with the reflections and things like that to get it more. But you can see as I move it around, it changes how dark things are too. So overall scale. Makes it thicker. Or that was a radius. If I bring this back up to say 1000, I bring up the overall scale a bit. I should start to thin out a little bit. Yeah, so we're starting to just get a little bit right there peeking through. Let me see if I move this. Just a little bit showing through. It can take a lot of scale to get it to actually come through. But anyway, Ben, that's you get the idea. Now that I've deleted that, it's going to turn red. Cool. But yeah, subsurface scattering is really fast in Redshift, and you can, of course, it's a bias engine, so you can fake it not only in the materials through like the backlight translucency, but you can have a ton of control over it too, just in the shader graph. So if that's something you like in Octane and it takes a lot of time, then that can be maybe solved for you in Redshift. Something else that's really cool is some of the camera features. So I've been seeing a lot of people do like these cool bokeh effects. So if we throw a camera in here, and let me lock into this, turn this off here, and back up. So we throw a cloner in here with some spheres, and these spheres can probably be like 50. And in that, we'll throw that there. We'll do a honeycomb, and we can probably do like 50 by 50. I'm gonna go ahead and move this back pretty far. We'll throw a random on there, and mostly want it in Z. And then we can do some scaling, say like -2, some really random sizes. Let's see, how far back is that? Yeah, that's probably good. All right. So for bokeh, or bokeh, depending on who you talk to, I'm not really sure the correct way to say it, but it's like when you have lights in a scene and they kind of get this warp to them. I'm going to go ahead and throw a incandescent material onto these spheres and hit play. So we've got all these spheres here, and we can move the fire hydrant over just a little bit. click on the fire hydrant. There we go. All right, so we've got all these spheres back there, and we've got our camera. I'm going to bring this down here. I'm going to throw a Redshift tag onto that, and under Bokeh, you can use a custom image down here. So got to hit enabled. You'll see depth of field right here starts to blur our guy, or our fire hydrant. I'm going to back this up a lot. I can probably just click on it, save some time, and you'll see that these spheres start to blur out a bit. And so at the moment, come on, there we go. At the moment, this is going to be powered through here with just 111. If I crank it up a little bit, you'll see they start to really blur out. We can probably do like 2. The aspect ratio, I'm going to do like a 0.7, and we kind of get like this anamorphic warp. But then if I go to use bokeh image here, and I'm going to go into 3D and RS Bokeh. Billy, who I don't know if he's still in the chat or not, started sharing a bunch of these with me, and so these are all different like lenses, and the light that they create, or the bokeh that they create. I think these are all Pentax lenses. So if I grab one, throw it in here, no, I don't need to copy it, and then I do white sum, you'll see that it affects these bokehs back here, and depending on what you use, you'll get little color shifts too. So you have to change it to white color sum. You can create your own like I did here. So then you get these really like cool abrasions going on, chromatic abrasions. And then if I hit buckets, it should clean it up all right. I think I need oh no, it cleans up pretty well. But if you want to have cool custom bokeh and things like that, you can do it pretty easily through here, through just these cool little images. And you just clean it up by throwing some more samples at it, probably 16 and 256. So big shout out to Billy, if you're still in the chat, Billy, for introducing me to that. And then you can really start to crank it up with your radius here, get crazy shifts going on, especially in that. Really like 1.5 should do it. Something too about this is if you're doing bokeh and you've got a custom image in here, this power actually doesn't do anything because it's pulling all the power from this, so that's useless. But say you want a little bit more anamorphic warp here, you can control that still. Pull that back even more, you start to get these really big separations going on. So some fun like 70s, 60s looks going on. All right, so it's 9:53, 8:53. So if anyone's got any questions, last minute questions, gonna hang out for 5 more minutes or so. Last week somebody came in with a question at like the last 5 minutes. We ended up staying on for like an extra 20 minutes. So you know, no big deal. If you've got a question, we can start diving into it. You know what, I might change these blades up a little bit, see if that affects it at all. A little bit, gets a little jaggedy, especially right there. 1.07 or 0.075, see what that does. It's getting pretty powerful. We can do 0.8. Cool. And wonder how much the intensity plays into this. So if I crank this up to 50, a good bit. So you can see the chromatic abrasion really starts to come out along these edges here. That's good to know. I do temperature, See if that changes it much. A little bit, not much. Start blowing this thing up with intensity. 5,000. Now it's just making the back of the hydrant blow up with lighting. Cool. All right, guys, last requests for Redshift questions. I'll switch back to my face while we're hanging out. Just out of curiosity and general conversation, anyone else out there have a Oculus Rift or into VR? Because I just got a Rift and I am beyond addicted to it. It is one of the coolest things I've ever experienced, and I definitely want to start making some little VR shorts and stuff. So if anyone's watching is into VR, I'd love to chat with you guys about it, because man, it is blowing my mind a bit. It's pretty cool. First time I used it was like 3 years ago, and I thought it was complete crap. And this is really awesome. Oh, yeah. Also, if you are a listener of Brograph who has been hosting all these tutorials and these weekly streams, they have started a Slack channel. You going to have for volume lighting detail. Ja, there's a tutorial called, what do I call it? Introduction to God Rays, I believe. So if you go back and look, I think it's the second tutorial updated. It was all about God Rays and volumetric lighting. I mean, I can show you really quick. It takes no time at all. But the Slack channel, I think it's on the Facebook page. And Dave, is it anywhere else? Have you guys linked it up anywhere else?
Go to Brograph.com and it's in the extra section. I think you can go /Slack.
Okay. So Brograph.com/Slack or the extra section of Brograph.com. You can go there and join the Slack channel, and it's been super fun and giddy and just like the randomest stuff. We've got a Cool Fire channel for Mitch Myers. We've got prayers for Octane Jesus. We've got a VR dedicated channel. We've got what's that?
Rick and Morty.
Oh, Rick and Morty dedicated channel. If you guys want to geek out about Pickle Rick and Render Rick, lots of fun stuff. And so feel free to come join and hang out with the community. I don't think it's like MDA or the other Slacks where you have to request to get in. I think as soon as you put your email in, you'll get a confirmation, right, Dave?
Yep.
Yeah. So there's no requirement. You don't have to show a reel or anything. You just put in an email address. But you're welcome, Ben. Ja, if you want to see really quick, I can just throw in a quick little environment. And right here, and then if I go to volume and add just like a 0.05 to contribution scale, all this right in here is volumetric, and I'll throw the cube in just so you can see it. Whoa, went way too small.
Put the screen back on.
Oh, you know what? I didn't put the screen back on. There we go. So what I did is I have this Redshift environment. You've got, I'm going to kill this camera too so I don't have any weird colors. I just put a cube in here. And so you've got pretty much this fog. And if you want to have, say, some God rays, you can take a Redshift light and we'll do a spotlight Where is it? Right there. Of course, right where my cursor is. Back this up. And just like I had to do with the dome light, I had to add contribution to it. You got to do that for this spotlight here. So we'll do 0.005. Just to, see, that's going to be really intense too. 0.005. So there you go. You can start to get some volumetric lighting pretty easily. And make this cone angle come down with like no fall off. So you get this harsh edge, or you can have the fall off cranked up. Let's say you want to have some color coming through this. So there you go. And so volumetrics in Redshift is super fast. And if you want to learn more about it, go watch the tutorial from I guess 4 weeks ago now at this point. I think it's been that long. So, but it does a really good job. It's super fast. This is progressive render. Oh, no, that was bucket. I didn't even realize I was still in bucket mode. So it's really fast, even with doing global illumination and all that. If I put it on progressive, you see it's even faster. I'm not even doing undersampling at the moment. Keeps up pretty well. And I'm streaming in 4K. So that adds to it even more. It's just something Redshift knows how to handle really well. All right, so it's 10:01. I think that was the last question that came in from Ja. Leg, hey man, sorry I missed you. Pop up there, but thanks for coming and joining us. I hope you have a chance to go back and rewatch the stream because you came the last 3 minutes. But
tell the playlist, the Brograph YouTube has a playlist of everything Redshift we've ever done.
Cool. Yeah, so I'm talking to Dave on Skype as we do this, and he wanted me to remind you guys too, if you are looking for more Redshift tutorials, Brograph has a dedicated playlist going of everything we've done, including there's an interview with the Redshift team at the top of the playlist from NAB, I believe, or is it Seagraph? Seagraph. From Seagraph this year, just right when C4D came out of alpha. So you get to hear the story behind that and some really great questions. And then below that is now, I think there's 7 tutorials up there now. Some like very general basic ones, and then all the way up to getting into some shader graph stuff now too. So, yeah, man, like hit us up with a follow. Totally. I'm at _Brograph on, or man, I am not that. I'm at _531 on Twitter. It's at Brograph on Twitter. Go to the YouTube channel or Twitch channel. You can subscribe, and Brograph and 531 on there as well. And keep up with the tutorials. Every Tuesday, we have a new tutorial come out for Redshift. Every Thursday, we're doing a live stream. And every Monday, Brograph has a podcast that comes out. And I've been a long time listener, and I can't think of a time that they've missed a week. Maybe there was like 1 or 2 in there. So you're guaranteed to get a podcast to listen to on the ride to work on Mondays. Sometimes it comes out on Tuesday because they're super busy with work, like going in and hang out with Deadmau5. But outside of that, you can guarantee that you're going to get weekly sustenance of Redshift and podcast, C4D information, and Octane and everything. So yeah, again, YouTube, Twitch, Periscope, every Thursday, Brograph is going to be streaming it. Then Redshift tutorials on Tuesdays will be coming out, and Mondays are podcasts. So, lots of great content every week. And as long as I can keep thinking of tutorials, I'm going to keep doing them. As long as you guys keep sending in questions and asking them, then I'm going to do that too. So, all right, yeah, that's awesome. Thanks for joining us so much at the end. No, I'm sorry that you missed the first part of it, but you got the tail end of information, and now you can go check out the rest. All right, guys, thanks so much again. I'm Liam Clisham at _531 on Twitter. You can follow Brograph at Brograph on Twitter, or brograph.com to get all the information about their podcast, Octane, Redshift tutorials, and everything else that is coming out there. All right, guys, thanks so much, and have a great night.